What's up guys, Captain Blade J52 here. Now it's been a few months at the time that I recorded this and got it uploaded that I've been able to get some content out there for you guys here on my main channel and everything. I've had some very personal stuff I've had to deal with and everything outside of my content creation and everything, and even when I did have the time content wise, I've been helping my cohorts over at the Pilot Review Show, and I've just not had the time to put stuff out there like I wanted. Now, I'm not going to go into details on anything, whatnot, but I'm here now, and I have the first of our sort of nerd general type discussions that we're actually going to be looking at. Now, this is a new segment here for the channel and everything, where we're going to take different concepts, discuss them a little bit, maybe some of the latest happenings gaming-wise, or just anything in general from time to time. Now, what actually made me think of this particular video today was I was cleaning out some old files from my computer. I was deleting old stuff I hadn't used in a while, uninstalling old programs I hadn't used. You know, basically trying to free up a little bit of disk space and everything. Just pretty much general computer stuff. You know, backing up old backing up stuff I wanted to keep onto flash drives, onto externals, and pretty much scrapping anything else I didn't need. Then, in the process of this, I came across an old folder that I hadn't seen for some time, and in this particular folder was a bunch of DBZ art, DBZ graphics and stuff that I'd downloaded from the net. Maybe it was a piece of art that I liked, maybe it was a background I liked, such as maybe a picture of Shenron or something like that. And in this folder also contained a Word document and everything. And when I opened the Word document up, it was basically a bit of the text from an old debate that I'd had with a guy about 2 or 3 years ago and everything at the time that I recorded this and I got this put up. And what it essentially boiled down to was he and I going back and forth over a particular question that he had had. Now, the question he had was, why couldn't Goku and Vegeta during the Majin Buu arc just go back in time and kill Majin Buu before he was ever a threat? And he and I were just kind of going back and forth with this. He presented some pretty interesting points. I presented some pretty interesting points of my own. He had a couple of weak arguments and everything. I had a couple of weak arguments myself. So it was pretty much a give and take. But the cool thing was, it was a pretty civil debate and everything. Just, you know, two guys that enjoy Dragon Ball, being able to kind of spitball with each other and have fun discussing something we like. Now, I don't remember exactly what video of Qaaman's this happened on, because it's been, like I said, a few years now since this actually happened. I'd actually kind of forgotten about it until I found that document again. But, anyways, I'm going to give a link to Qaaman's channel for you guys to check his stuff out as well and everything. You know, I didn't feel it would be right of me to mention that the original inspiration for this happened because of one of his videos and not give a link to his channel at the very least. You know, I just didn't feel that would be the right thing to do. Now, I am a fan of his work. I think he does a lot of good work with his Dragon Ball related stuff and everything. And I do enjoy some of his theories, even if they don't always pan out and everything. It's still interesting to get another person's take on that sort of thing. But I don't know if he'll see this or not, but if you do see this, Qaaman, then what's up, dude? I enjoy your work, and I hope you keep doing it for a while. But anyways, getting into the question now. Why couldn't Goku and Vegeta just go back in time and kill Majin Buu before he was ever a threat? Now, to answer this, I am going to take a quick pause for a moment and say this is going to contain some spoilers from Dragon Ball Z and also the new Dragon Ball Super. So, if you're somebody that doesn't like spoilers, I would advise go ahead, go watch the rest of DBZ and everything. Go watch Dragon Ball Super up through the end of the Future Trunks arc. at the very least, so you'll have a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about. Now, for everybody else that doesn't really care about spoilers, or you've already seen it and everything, let's go ahead and dive into it. Now, there's two methods of time travel, essentially, that we see in the Dragon Ball universe. There's what I term as the godly form of time travel, or manipulation, which includes things like the time rewind that Whis could do and used in the revival of F. This is when Frieza destroyed the Earth and everything. Because Vegeta took too long, Whis essentially rewound everything, and Goku kills Frieza before he can destroy the Earth. Now, that particular method of time travel or manipulation we see is, according to Whis, only limited, or it is limited, if I could words, to about 3 or 5 minutes, somewhere along in there. Basically an undo button of sorts, so you can undo a specific mistake. Now, it's very possible that Grand Priest, or perhaps even Zeno, could rewind time even further, but they've never shown on screen whether that's a possibility or not yet. So for now, it's safe to assume that Whis is correct, and it's limited to just the 3 to 5 minutes. Now, they could surprise us and show another form of time manipulation like that, but for now, that's really the only one that we see as far as the gods use. Now, we do know that the gods can time travel as well, because we see a couple instances of that. Now, overall, time travel in DBZ and Dragon Ball Super borrows very heavily from multiverse theory. In DBZ and DB Super, anything that happens is essentially time-locked, meaning it can't be prevented through the use of time travel unless you've got a godly form of time manipulation or godly form of time travel that could be used. This means the time manipulation stuff like the rewind and everything. Now, when a change is made, or something like that that involves time travel, a time ring is essentially created. Now, Beerus himself unwittingly created a time ring whenever he killed President Zamasu and everything, and that time ring allowed access to another timeline where Zamasu hadn't been destroyed. Now, it gets really confusing at times when dealing with that sort of thing, but anyways, time travel itself is very much frowned upon and even forbidden by the gods, although there are some instances where time travel does happen, or it's actually permitted, such as when Whis took Maya and Trunks into an alternate version of the future to live in peace. Now, the other form of time travel that we have, or time manipulation if you prefer, is the mortal time travel method, as I dub it. And that's pretty much what Future Trunks used. It involves the use of a time machine or some type of similar device. Now, overall, as far as time manipulation, all that sort of thing, like I touched on earlier, we don't really see the full extent of what the gods can do as far as time travel and time manipulation and everything. Now, we have seen Whis do the time rewind a few times. We've seen Zeno erase a couple of universes, but beyond that, we've not really seen the full ability set that they have. Now, to examine how the mortal time travel method works, we first have to examine its first uses when Future Trunks first appeared. Now, after the Z Fighters, minus Goku of course, had returned to Earth, they had peace for a time after the Namek Saga. Now, soon after, of course, they sensed two very powerful key signatures approaching the planet, which of course turned out to be Frieza and King Cold. Now, the Z Fighters, of course, gathered up, went to go take them out, but before they could act, Future Trunks steps in, kills all of Frieza's minions. Now, Frieza threatens Trunks, as we see in the manga and in the anime, and eventually the fight breaks out. Trunks goes Super Saiyan, kills Frieza and his dad both. Now, he says hi to the Z Fighters, and everything, but doesn't really tell him much beyond that and offers to let him stay with him until Goku arrives. Now, once Goku gets there and everything, Future Trunks kind of pulls him aside, tells him what's up, says, hey, I'm from the future and everything, warns him about the androids and that sort of thing. Pretty much explains, all the Z Fighters are dead, it was just me and Gohan left, now he's dead, now I'm the only one. He explains, exactly who he is and everything. Which does take Goku by surprise that Bulma and Vegeta would have a kid. But he made Goku promise not to tell so that he doesn't essentially prevent himself from being born. But anyway, Goku notices that through their discussions, Trunks doesn't really mention what happened to him. So he asks Trunks why that is. Trunks tells him, well, you die before the battle due to a heart virus. In this timeline, there's no cure for it, but in the future, my mother's developed a cure. And he gives Goku the cure to the heart virus. And essentially goes back to the future after that. Now, Piccolo explains the situation to the Z Fighters on Goku's behalf, but doesn't mention anything to jeopardize Trunks' existence. Now, a year later, of course, the androids appear, which are Androids 20 and Android 19, with Android 20 being Dr. Gero himself. Now, they'd had some time, about a year, to plan for everything, to train up, to get into shape where they could fight them, all that sort of stuff. Now, eventually, once the battle against the androids kicks off, Goku, of course, turns Super Saiyan, which surprises Android 19 and Android 20, who didn't have any clue that the Super Saiyan transformation existed, because their data only included the fights down there on Earth and didn't include what happened in space and on Namek. Now, during the fight, Goku gets pretty much very badly out of breath, he gets sick, and Krillin throws him a senzu bean. Now, when that doesn't work, Piccolo deduces that it's the heart virus, and Goku caught it much later than what Trunks originally said. Now, after removing Goku from the scene, Piccolo realizes after Goku was removed, I should say, Piccolo realizes that a butterfly effect is going on, and events may not play out exactly as Trunks had said that they would. Now, once Trunks actually arrives to help them fight against the androids, he's surprised when he sees what's left of Android 19, and he notices, wait a minute, these aren't the androids that I've been fighting. Now, after Gero pretty much got his butt royally handed to him, he goes back to the lab where he activates androids 17 and 18, who then turn on him and kill him, and then they activate android 16. Now, the group is very promptly beaten down by the androids and begin to formulate a new plan. Now, it's during this lull of activity, they did do a little bit of training, all that sort of thing, that Bulma informs Trunks of a mysterious device reported outside of a nearby town. Of course, Gohan and Trunks, they go to investigate it. Bulma arrives on the scene as well, and they discover that it's a duplicate time machine. Except this one originates 23 years into the future, which is 3 years even farther into the future than when Trunks originally came from. Now, Trunks himself came from 20 years into the future, with this machine being 23 years into the future. Now, once Trunks realizes, hey, there's an even bigger butterfly effect going on, that's when he kind of starts to piece stuff together. That maybe he's responsible for some of the events going down now. Now, of course, we know how it all ends. Eventually, they discover Cell. Cell tells them exactly what happened, how he killed Trunks in the future, stole the time machine, came back to absorb the androids. Now, eventually, of course, Cell is defeated. Trunks goes back to his time. He beats the androids there, and there is peace for a time. Now, fast forward 3 more years to 23 years into the future, and it's at this point that Trunks is jumped by future Cell, who attempts to kill him and take the time machine. This time, however, future Cell gets killed, preventing him from going back in time. So even though Trunks essentially prevented Cell from going into the past, it still... Essentially what I'm getting at is, even though Trunks killed Cell and prevented him from going into the past, nothing changed for his timeline. Nothing changed at all because of the time lock. Now, since Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super borrow heavily from the multiverse theory, when using the mortal method to travel back in time, you're essentially traveling to a parallel timeline inside your own universe, which is completely independent from and won't affect your timeline even if you make changes. Now, this is why, or part of why, Trunks was surprised when he gave Goku the cure for the heart virus and noticed nothing changed in his timeline. And even after he killed Cell, that was because of the time lock effect. Now, as stated just a couple minutes ago, events can't be changed without a godly form of time manipulation or prevented through mortal time travel. Now, you can undo most of the effects through use of the Dragon Balls, but when Trunks traveled back in time, he essentially set in motion the events that created several different timelines and everything. Now, we see... Now, obviously, some different people number these timelines differently. These are just how I number them for simplicity's sake. At least to me, anyway. We see timeline number 1. Now, timeline number 1 is the one where Goku died of the heart virus. Eventually, all of the Z Fighters are killed off by the androids. Then we see... excuse me. We see timeline number 2, which is 20 years into the future, and this is where future Trunks comes from. This is after all the other Z Fighters had been killed. Gohan's pretty much dead at this point as well. Then we see timeline number 3. This is where Trunks went to in the past. This is where all of the rest of Z takes place, and eventually Super. Then timeline number 4 is set 23 years into the future. Now, this is the timeline where Cell actually killed Trunks and stole the time machine, and that's where he went back to timeline number 3. So it essentially started with timeline number 1. Goku and everybody died. Then we had timeline number 2 and everything that existed. Then Trunks goes back in time. This creates timeline number 3 and also sets the stage for timeline number 4 to take place. Now, we don't really see much of timeline number 1 except through flashbacks and memories of Trunks, that sort of thing. And we don't really see a lot of timeline number 4 either, except from flashbacks from Cell and what he explained to Piccolo. So, we don't really see a lot of those two timelines. But what we do see is timeline number 2 and timeline number 3. Now, you may be asking, well, what does all this have to do with the original question? How does this relate to Goku and Vegeta going back in time to kill Majin Buu? This essentially sets the stage to, I guess, better answer that question. Now, keeping in mind everything that has been explained up to this point, Goku and Vegeta could, in theory, go back in time. They could kill Majin Buu before he became a threat, but it wouldn't really do them any good. It wouldn't affect the timeline that they're in currently. So they could essentially go back in time and create a 5th timeline where Majin Buu gets killed before he wreaks havoc, but it wouldn't have any effect on timeline number 3 at all. So you would essentially have 5 timelines at that point, completely independent of each other, all existing within the same universe. So, in a nutshell, at the end of the day, they could do it, but it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't help them any, because they would still have to fight the Buu of their timeline. All they would have done was created another timeline where Buu had been killed. And that opens up another can of worms as well, such as, what would happen because Buu never died, or because Buu actually did die, what would have changed and everything. And they could have opened the door to even more threats down the road. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much in a nutshell why they couldn't do it. It's not that they didn't have the ability to go back in time and to kill Buu, it's just that it wouldn't make any difference if they had. So, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and everything. I hope you found this explanation satisfactory at the very least and everything. But let me know what you think in the comments and everything down below. You know, feel free to shoot me ideas for future discussion topics. You know, it could be anything from, you know, a game that's out there, you know, such as Star Trek Online, The Old Republic. Could be a console game, could be another PC game. Whatever it is, it could be something comic book related. It could be anime related, such as another DBZ. Could be Star Trek, Star Wars. Could be Power Rangers related even, or pretty much anything in general as far as that goes and whatnot. And if I'm familiar with it and everything, then I may do a video over it. You know, feel free to shoot me your what-if scenarios as well, any ideas you have for future videos and stuff. But be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and everything, and I hope to see you guys next time. But for now, this is Captain Blade J52, signing off.